My name is Dr. Pramit Rastogi, and I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist working at Children First, which is a child and adolescent mental health clinic. Today, Children First and Anhad, Act Now for Harmony and Democracy, have come together for today's topic, which is mental health perspectives during the pandemic. As is the format of the video series hosted by Anhad, this will have 4 interactive sessions using different modalities and lenses to understand and cope with how the pandemic has changed our world as we know it, at least for the time being. For all the lectures except the third lecture, which is actually a movement-based fun activity for the whole family to cope with some of the stress of the pandemic, for all the other lectures, it is recommended that you have a paper and pencil on hand for some self-reflection. For the last lecture, it will be helpful to have a larger sheet of paper or a drawing sheet with some crayons or pencil colors. I would also like to add that Children First is a child, adolescent, and young adult mental health clinic based out of Delhi and Gurgaon. And right now we are seeing patients online. You can get more information from our website and our Facebook page. This video series is an effort to help make sense of the mental health impact of the lockdown and the pandemic. When it started dawning on us that something big and disruptive was happening around us, the overarching feeling was that of fear. Fear of what if we or a loved one contract the coronavirus. The fear of what would happen if our healthcare systems get overwhelmed and is unable to take care of patients who need the help. Fear of loss of employment, fear of loss of investment. But I think what maybe was missed was the sense of loss. The loss of routine, the loss of social connect or social contact, loss of things that bring us pleasure, and also the loss of things that keep us busy and distracted from the more uncomfortable aspects of life. Before we attempt to master something emotionally, it's very helpful to master something intellectually. So we'll briefly speak about loss as a concept. At this point, I would also like you to move to a quieter place if possible so that you can benefit more from this presentation. Loss. Loss is an experience of something important, something fundamental suddenly taken away. And it's unclear at the time of loss how much of what you've lost will you get back or get back at all. Grief. Grief is a natural response to loss. Feelings like apathy, hopelessness, listlessness, powerlessness, sadness, anger are perfectly normal emotions at this time. Some people might react to this by being proactive, by being busy. Others might feel a huge setback and shock. Eventually, the only way to move forward is to process through the grief. And this takes its own time, but we can, through our awareness of ourselves and how we as an individual are processing our loss and longing, can make this process a little easier for us. Neither the overcompensation and the proactiveness will last, nor will the setback and shock is permanent. Now, with this background, let us facilitate a reflective journey to make sure and make sense of your sense of loss and longing. Keep a paper and pencil handy and write your reflections whenever you get a chance. Loss and longing. To begin with, close your eyes and take a deep breath. We'll do 3 deep inhalations and exhalations, and I'll give you the count. Take a deep inhalation to the count of 5. Pause for the count of 2, and a relaxing exhalation to the count of 6. Again, inhale to the count of 5, Pause for the count of 2 and a relaxed exhalation to the count of 6. Inhale to the count of 5, pause to the count of 2, and a long, relaxing exhalation to the count of 6. Keep your eyes closed. Loss, longing. Loss that you're experiencing right now. This could be the loss of your work identity, the loss of social contact for an extrovert, or the loss of peer contact for an adolescent, the loss of a quiet space at home for a homemaker, or that of an introvert, the loss of employment, loss of a safe space outside of home, longing. Longing for things that are not critical but important, longing to look forward to that calm morning commute, longing for having a quiet cup of tea or coffee when you get to work or after the kids have gone to school, longing to have a late night trip to the neighborhood ice cream wala cart and having an orange bar, longing to have a simple meal at a neighborhood restaurant, longing to meet a soulmate or a dear friend or family and friends in person, longing to restore the work-life balance that you had so carefully constructed, longing to get back toward the aspirations and hopes and ambitions that you were keeping in your mind and which have suddenly come to a standstill. Take a few moments to connect to the sadness of these simple joys that are temporarily gone from your life. Stay with the feelings of loss and longing these statements and these words are evoking in you. Next, think of yourself as a rectangle. I know this sounds kind of sudden and odd, but think of yourself as a rectangle. And within the rectangle, think of a circle that is symbolic or representative of the loss that you're feeling inside. You can visualize it or draw it. A rectangle, that is you, and a circle or a disc or a sphere inside that rectangle, that is loss. How big is this? Is it covering more than half of the rectangle? Is it a very small disc or circle in the corner of a rectangle? Is it rapidly growing? Is it gradually decreasing? Is it threatening to take over the rectangle? Is there a sense of impending doom as you look at the circle, signifying loss? What is this loss impacting? Your mood, your energy levels, your engagement with people? Being in lockdown can be extremely stressful as we try to balance work, chores, taking care of family members, and any shift in energy, mood can have significant impacts on us. And even if we are able to carry on, there is a background of loss of control because we don't see the end of the tunnel, and therefore we don't know how to pace ourselves. There is uncertainty, and there is, in some cases, too much time with ourselves if we are living alone, or just a lack of any time if we are with our families. What is this loss impacting for you? Mood, energy levels, or engagement with people? You might find yourself craving to be around family members and wanting their presence to be reassuring. You might be looking forward to that Zoom video conference at the end of the day with friends, but find yourself back to feeling unmotivated, listless when the conference is over. Or you might want to just be by yourself, Being with kids could also be very draining, even if you love and value the time spent with them. What is this loss impacting for you? Next, are you okay with the size of loss, the size of your circle, or do you feel privileged, undeserving of feeling irritable, low, apathetic, unmotivated, because you just have to stay home with your family and kids or stay home alone and doing chores and work? Do you feel the pressure to move on and to reduce the size of this loss and lack of control? Or are you maybe enjoying this time with your family or enjoying this time with yourself, doing mundane and meaningful things? Are you okay with your size of loss? Do you think you deserve it? Are you enjoying, on the other hand, some aspects of what this lockdown has led you to experience? Over the last 10 to 15 days, as I've been working with multiple families in my clinic, engaging with my own family and friends, and self reflecting, many themes have emerged. People are responding to the current scenario in multiple ways. Many people need to be productive, especially as they are not working. They feel the need to be productive, holding themselves to the same standards as if nothing has happened. Others find their work meaningless in the context of what's happening all around the world. Their work might seem insignificant, their problems, nothing. Um, Yet others might ignore the sinking feelings of the impending unpredictability or the looming unpredictability, finding themselves lost after a few days of being productive. Students whose academic trajectories are anyways unpredictable have to struggle with the added unpredictability of suspended exams, deferred college start dates, parents needing to supervise kids throughout the day while managing their online classes, working from home, handling household chores, worrying about the next paycheck, managing house EMIs while still wanting to pay the domestic help who's no longer coming home. Children trapped in households with ongoing domestic violence, kids living in homes away from family with reduced staff, complicating their sense of loss that has been chronic. Themes of abject hopelessness with everything around, with no sense of it changing in the near future and yet carrying on. Themes of what else would this pandemic and this lockdown take away from us? Our sense of stability, our sense of financial security, our aspirations and hopes for the future. I'm sure many of you might be resonating or relating to at least some of these scenarios. Or if not, at least it will give you a slice of what other themes are occurring in our community at this point. And again, this is not an exhaustive list, so I kind of feel bad that I must have missed out on certain themes. But I'm sure other speakers later in the day will be able to take you through that and through that bring you some sort of centering as well as perspective. This takes us to the next set of reflective questions. This might help you again center, ground, and find meaning, so stay with me. Close your eyes again and think of the last few days, of a moment when this sense of loss, lack of control, unpredictability, uncertainty was a little less. When you felt a little bit more in control, not necessarily happy, but calmer. A small tendril of resolve to take charge. Stay with that feeling. In the last few days, a moment when this felt a little less out of control. And reflect on what led to that moment. What happened just before, or what motivated you to take that first step of reclaiming some control over the proceedings. It could be that there was something so suffocating that you wanted to break free, or there was a longing for order or control over your life. In that moment, reflect on what skill, action, or value system is that gave meaning to you. What skill, action, or value system did you use at that time to take that first step? And how does that skill, action, or value system lines up with how you have dealt with loss in the past? In the past, when something significant, something fundamental was suddenly taken away, a plan not working out, an admission not working out, a relationship not working out. What centered you? What skill, action, value system, ethos helped you take the first step? And are there any similarities? Are you employing some of the same skills, actions, or value systems? And what can or who can help you use them more right now? I would also like to encourage you to think of other people or rectangles if we continue with the same metaphor. Their circles, big and small, of loss and longing, and how is your rectangle in your circle interacting with theirs? Are you in a provider role? Are you able to receive? Are you doing both? Or are you stuck in just one? We will discuss this more at length when we go to our next lecture at 1 p.m., where there'll be three speakers talking about how our rectangles interact with other people's rectangles in our family, in our community. Challenges faced by young families, challenges faced by adolescents and young adults as they negotiate the next stage of their life, either living alone or with their family of origin. Challenges faced by individuals who are marginalized or who are struggling with severe mental illness. This in the lecture or presentation at 1 o'clock. As a psychiatrist, it would be unfair if I don't weigh in on when to reach out for help. Grief is a process and has many stages. Denial, it's not happening, it's all good. This is nothing. Anger, bargaining, it won't be that bad. We will manage. Depressive symptoms, oh no, all is lost. And acceptance. These can occur in any order and sometimes can happen all at once. If you are struggling to the point of not being able to function, if the listlessness, the apathy, the lack of motivation, the inability to enjoy anything pleasurable continues for longer than 10, 15 days without any movement, any progress, any shift, then reach out to family, friends, or a professional to help you get unstuck. Most people will struggle with the stages of grief, find balance, and like many times before, will be able to move on. And others might need professional help. So please reach out to us or other professionals. At this point, many professionals have taken their services online. So reach out to them, and I'm sure you will be able to get the help that you need. I would also like to note that sometimes symptoms can get severe enough that requires more intensive outpatient regular therapy and even a short course of medications. But for a smaller subset of people. I want to leave you with one question that you can answer at the end of the fourth presentation, which is actually a very fun art and expressive arts based activity for the entire family. Because while this presentation was about loss and longing as an individual and finding your own center, the other conversations are more about systems and families, and I think this question was best answered then. The lockdown and the pandemic has forced us to pause in many ways. It has ended up adding some experiences to our lives, more meals together, more time with ourselves, more involvement with children, being able to fulfill certain other kind of longings, like sleeping in, like reading a book that you have wanted to read, um, talking to loved ones, or even the realization of another kind of loss, the loss of running, doing what needs to be done, but not being able to take care of you, of your family, of things that are not critical but very important. So the question is, when all this ends, what would you like to keep in your life? Among the things that the pandemic of coronavirus has given you, inadvertently, are there things that you want to keep when this is all over? And when this is all over, what would you like to reclaim and pick up first and hold tight as things inch back to normal? Thanks for listening. We are in this together, and we'll carry us through. And I invite you to uh, check out the rest of our talks through the rest of the day.